everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Catherine Lorimer's Guide to Life podcast. Week 5, I think it's week 5. I usually check before I do anything like this. Make sure all the buttons are off. Yeah, that's all good. For anyone that has listened to this for the first time, I did record a couple of podcasts earlier on in the year, and I had the mute button on. So I tend to double check that now. So hope everyone's had a good week. I think this is week 5 where we're going great guns. So listening figures are up, which is really good. I did my first YouTube thing today, which is good. It's a 6-minute video. I'll shove it on YouTube, so you guys can all go and kind of watch that and see what's going on. It's a little bit about the topic that I'm talking about later on, but it'll be a different conversation completely. Or maybe some of the same stuff, but it'll probably be different, knowing me, because it's all ad hoc. I just do it off the cuff, so it's not scripted, so it will be different stuff. The teenager's been awesome this week. Hang on, here's the teenager. She has secured, Jack Whitehall tickets, for the Fringe. I mean, legendary. She's now my hero, absolute legend. I got a text message from my partner, and he's like, she's noticed that Jack White is on, and she's got herself 2 tickets and wondered if we wanted to come. I'm thinking no, because we've got a reservation for dinner, and it only needs us half an hour to get there, and it's a 25-minute walk. My reply: I'm changing the reservation now. I love Jack Whitehall. Fortunately, the teenager was in the room with me at the same time. I was like, oh my God, Jack Whitehall. She's like, I'm getting you tickets now. I was like, thank you. Only because she's worked out how to log on to the Edinburgh Fringe app. Doesn't like me for some reason. I've tried about 4 times now. I need to give it another go. It's a little bit somber, this podcast. There's a bit of J-reality, and I'll try and keep it humorous, but somebody I know lost one of their parents this week, and I got a text message through from my partner, and he said, I'm thinking of going away with my mate. We've suggested this date. Does that work? And I kind of went, oh, that's my dad's birthday. And then I kind of thought, well, he's going to be 87, and I thought, wow, he's probably not going to have that many birthdays left. And you know what? It was a real. I was actually at work, and I started crying. Fortunately, nobody was there with me at the time, or we didn't have any people coming up to the desk. And I thought, oh, wow. And it was kind of the realization that actually, that somebody's not going to be around forever. It really kind of struck me and hit me. And I was, so I'm sorry if it's a little bit kind of maybe not as humorous as I really want it to be. But do you know what? Life isn't like that all the time, is it? Sometimes we have ups and downs, and we just have to try and find our best way through it. Another thing as well that happened, I did a weekend. I did 2 days last weekend at the hospital, and I was quite astonished actually, because there's a couple of people that came in with horrific head injuries, and they're all like swollen, and I didn't really fully appreciate of what another human being can actually do to another human being, and this goes as well. I think we're all talking this week about PC Harper. I know certainly my friends and colleagues are. And even out on the hack, it was a topic of conversation, because that was horrific. I'm not going to go into the whole details, but for me, the fact that the 2 people that did it thought it was funny and laughing and joking, and I'm guessing, from my perspective, it kind of shows you where we are in society, doesn't it? Really, that have we become desensitized to what we're doing, by letting teenagers and children play video games where you kill people in the video games, and watching really kind of, violent movies and drama series, and normalizing it all, when actually it's wrong. We shouldn't be normalizing it at all, should we? We should be going back to the Miss Marples and things that you can kind of sit around and watch as a family, not some kind of like horrible, violent TV program. That's my personal opinion. As I was quite horrified by what I saw at the hospital. I've been playing golf again. Okay, I had a week off because I was busy, and then we played on Monday. And do you know what? I got the best score so far on that golf course. I've got like my little golf outfit. If you've seen it, there's pictures on social media, and I did a little video as well. It was a bit nerve-wracking. Okay, you can see my hands sort of like twitching at the sides, going. So I've done another one for this week's podcast. In the garden, take 10. I couldn't get the microphone to work, so I've ordered some microphones, and I was quite excited because they're little Rode microphones. And I was quite excited because I actually saw some guy from Virgin Radio who's up there recording stuff for the Edinburgh Fringe. And, you know, he had these kind of like little microphones. I was like, I've got one of those as well. Like the little windshield thing plugged in it because it's probably a bit windy up there. And I'm taking mine up to the Edinburgh Fringe. I don't know, I can't guarantee it, but I'm going to see if I can find someone to interview. I do know somebody that's doing something up there. So, you know, it's whether or not they'll be happy to do it, but we'll give it a go. I've met them before. They may say, no, I'm not doing that, but we'll see how it goes. But they do improv, so it should be okay. But I hope it is anyway. I'll find someone to interview, it'll be fine. So I've got my little microphone, so I'm taking them up with me, and I'm able to sort of do stuff. I had an issue pairing it in the garden. This was when I was doing my promo, take 10, and I realised I hadn't pressed the right button on the microphone to pair it all, and after, so I was just going for the last take, thinking, yeah, this is going really, really well, and all of a sudden the dog starts barking really loudly in the garden, and I'm like, "Urgh!" So I had to do it all again. But anyway, it's all good. It's all uploaded. All sorted. I think I've edited it. I can't quite remember, but we can fix that. And nowadays, I've got like a special app I'm doing it on. I'm not doing it on the camera app because this app's slightly better anyway. Wardrobe rethink. I think I mentioned I'm having a massive wardrobe rethink. Going for a few more dresses. And I need to get some jewellery sorted out as well, because you'll see in my video podcast, there's a large cleavagey area which could probably do with some jewellery, but it's I don't have much here. I'm doing it at my partner's house, and it's all kind of at my house, and it's all costume stuff anyway. There's nothing particularly expensive. Yeah, so but I'm kind of thinking, well, what do I want? You know, do I need to go? You know, well, what do I want? So I'm thinking it all through. I've got some pricing and stuff to put like a logo on things. But that's going to be coming maybe September time, because I'm going to think it all through, think about the colours that I want. Because originally I'm like, yeah, I'm having everything navy. Then I thought, that's right. Then Andy Burnham's social media team have told him that he needs to be, you know, less blokish. I thought, oh, do I need to be more feminine? Is navy not a feminine colour? Maybe I should be going for like more light blues and turquoises. Because I sent the kind of the t-shirts through to a friend of mine who's a little bit more girly than me. And she went, oh, yeah, I like the turquoise and the light blue ones. And I was like, oh, she doesn't like the navy. So I'm going to have a rethink about all that. And we'll see how we're getting up. So Pippa, how's Pippa doing? Well, her extra hormone tablet is working. Woohoo! Thankfully, which is great, because she's off to Granny's, you know, while we go to the Fringe. So I'm really pleased that, you know, that's working, because obviously that's a bit of a load off. Otherwise I'd be like, oh, she's dripping everywhere. Everything's got wet. There's stuff all over the sofa. That's actually how my mum speaks. I did have a message from my cousin, and he said, I'm not really sure about the stand-up comedy because I've never been to see one. He said, however, he said the impersonation of Granny Smith, we'll call her. Granny Smith is really good. So there we go. I've got a leather sofa. It's got stains now. She's weed. Could have warned me in advance. I'm taking a cover just in case. The issue I have is she is getting a little bit forgetful, bless her. She is 80, how old am I? 50 to 82 she is, or 83 maybe, 83 I think. She might forget to give her a tablet. I usually put labels on things now. It's got to that stage. I'll have to put a label on saying, make sure you give Pippa one tablet with each meal. I'll have to do that before I go. Oh, but I've taken the food already, but I'll do that. So social media. Oh, I'm getting up. So I've forgotten Merlin. Merlin's fab. He's great. There's a nice picture of me actually bringing him in. My partner, John, very kindly, has been doing quite a lot of social media photographs and stuff. And the video as well on the golf course, which is, you know, he's great. Awesome. Really appreciate his help with all this. Merlin, getting up at 5:45. Which again he just loves, but he's so supportive. It's just amazing. And at 5:45 to ride during the heat wave, obviously, because it's I'm on board for about 6:30, and we kind of go around the fields. So he's getting quite a lot of exercise up and down the hills. I think he's looking forward to a few days off at some point. Social media. I've opened a if I can say it, TikTok account. Okay, and it was on fire this week. I got like 248 views of my salad, how to jazz up your salad. Anyway, so I shoved on, here's how I jazzed up my salad. So I'll have to think of some more clearly that's what sort of thing that TikTok likes. So I'll have to think of some more kind of recipe ideas to kind of good food recipe ideas, healthy food recipe ideas. Because I do see on that, because it's all packed to kind of my diet and stuff, which I'll move on to in a minute. Okay. Right. So I did go and check out my little cottage. We had to stay at the cottage as well. And I'm really struggling with the idea of having to rent it out because I love that little cottage. I really love it. I don't really want to rent it out. And my neighbour's great, and and she won't want it. So I'm really, that's a real struggle for me. Actually, it's a mental battle at the moment. I don't want to rent it out. We're not going to rent it out anyway because we're going to be planning to do quite a lot of building work at my partner's house. I think I've mentioned we've kind of we've got an architect on board. And also a structural engineer, and it's going to be a process. It's already taken like about 3 or 4 months, to get to like this stage, and we've still got to get planning. And so it's probably, realistically, I'm thinking, I thought we might be able to start the building work next year. I'm thinking it's probably going to be the year after. So, so we're going to have to go and stay in the little cottage for however long it takes to do it. So so I won't have to rent it out. It's not an urgent decision. But when you're kind of really sort of attached to some place because you've made it your home, because it is my little home. It's got all my stuff in it, and I think because here I've only got a few clothes. I haven't got my stuff. I'm not properly kind of moved in, not officially moved in. I'm just loitering with intent to see how it works out. Right. Right. So what else happened? Okay. Right. So does anyone follow All Aboard on Instagram? Do you? Because it's really good. If you don't, he puts some fantastic posts up. And this week it was there's one. It was all about questions you get asked as an adult. And I remember getting asked all these. So when are you settling down? That was my mum used to say that to me. When are you settling down? Never. I don't want to. I got married when I was about 30. So I really, because constant nagging wears you down, doesn't it? When you're getting married. When you're having a child, right, to that one. And I actually put this comment on Instagram post, of which a lot of people have really liked it. So I'll tell you what it is. So, I got so many. When you're having a child, when you're having a family, when you're starting a family, when you're having a child. So I went out and bought, an MX-5 two-seater sports car in green with the lights that pop up. And do you know what? No one ever asked me that question again. It was kind of like, but there is a serious note to this, and that's kind of where I'm going to go with most of my podcast for this morning, because it's the part of the thing that I've been chatting about on my video, and it's like the promo stuff. Nobody ever asked why. Okay, why I didn't have any children. They just assumed that I didn't want any, which I didn't particularly want any. But the point was, I actually went through menopause really, really early, about sort of 32. With probably the stress of getting married. I think I'm having to settle down. My body went, oh, you can't have a child as well. No. So I just, I didn't. So I had to go through all these medical tests. And looking back now, I think it's like, when you kind of, I'm with my partner now, and he went through a similar experience as well. And, I know that this partner I have now, he's so supportive over things, whereas my other partner, I would just, he didn't come with me to one appointment. I just did it all on my own. Whereas I know that my partner now would have come with me every stage of the way. He'd have been there for every kind of ultrasound and every consultant thing, and we'd have had a proper discussion. And, I wasn't even sure how to talk about things like that with my ex-husband. I just felt uncomfortable. In fact, the first person that I shared the news with was my boss. I think I've spoken about this before, but I'll say it anyway, because for people that haven't heard it. It was my manager, because she had the same thing. I was diagnosed with having polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS. They're calling it polyendocrine ovarian syndrome now. I think they've changed the name slightly. I can't quite remember what it's called. I'll have to try and find the information on Tinternet. If I go back a bit, I'll probably be able to find it. So I didn't, I had the conversation, I chatted to her, and she said, well, you need to tell your partner. I was like, yeah, and I did. And then, so I did. So I chatted a little bit, but I didn't really feel comfortable talking about it with him. And I'm not very good at opening up. And I think that's part of being an only child. When you have to deal with stuff as an only child, you're on your own. You don't have any brothers or sisters to chat about things with. There's usually like an animal. So if I chat about stuff, I'll chat to the dog. Pippa knows quite a lot about my life. So does Merlin. And and that's who you'll have a conversation with, because that's who you've got the closest bond with. Because my mother wasn't very approachable, and we didn't really have communications, like that. I remember when I put my first partner, I just got dragged along to the doctors and put on the pill. There was no kind of like discussions about what was actually happening or whether or not it was necessary. It was just assumed that's what you're doing. And I think because she was like that, and because I didn't have any siblings to chat to, I'm not very good at chatting. I kind of do it all on my own, and battle with things on my own. And actually, I'm getting a bit better now at sharing stuff. And it's taken me 50 years. I've got a really, really close friend who I'm sharing an awful lot with, which is great. I tell him most stuff now, and I certainly tell my partner loads. He knows everything. He knows loads of stuff. So, I feel like I'm in a much better place, than I was previously. But yeah, so and I remember I kind of went for a scan to kind of work out what was going on and stuff, and I remember my ex-husband didn't even ask about the results, didn't seem to care, and you know what, alarm bells should have really rung at that point, really, shouldn't they? That he didn't really care about anything, and because that's the sort of thing that you should have asked. And I remember I got really, really drunk. It was either Christmas or New Year at a friend's house. And then I ended up shouting at him across the table what the results were. And I actually remember, and I got more emotion from a friend of ours. We'll call him Harry because he looked like Harry Potter. And I got more kind of like comfort and emotion from Harry than I did from my ex-husband. And if I'm really honest with you, I'm going to be totally honest now. Even when I was kind of like, I was always not sure whether or not I was kind of, should I, who should I be with, Harry or my ex-husband? I mean, he's happily married now and he's got a child, and that's fine. But the thought was always there. I was never quite sure really which one, but there we go. That's something else interesting that's happened. So I'm going to talk about polycystic ovary syndrome, okay? Because it's, and what it is and what it means. Okay, so it's now called polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, okay? They've recently renamed it. And basically, you kind of affects your hair growth. You may have noticed my hair's really fine. It never used to be like that. When I was a child, it was really, really thick. Well, that's to do with what this is. I also get like lots of random odd hairs growing, but I think that's an age thing. I spend a lot of my time, with a pair of tweezers or whatever means, removing bits of strange random hairs everywhere. And it's also, you can have, I'm not going to go into like kind of like the mechanics and stuff, what it is. And you can feel quite tired, which does happen to me. I'm not going to moan too much about it. But the thing that is, it's kind of like something that's really tricky is actually losing weight. It's a big thing of it. You put on weight and it's really, really difficult to lose weight. And it's been really frustrating throughout the years. So like, I would like exercise more and I would, eat the right things and I wouldn't lose any weight, or I'd lose half a stone and then be absolutely starving so that I'd have to eat and eat and eat. So I'm trying to lose weight. I've lost 5 kilograms, which is quite good. And I'm kind of like been sort of static at that for 4 months. So I'm trying to lose some more. But this time I've done it a little bit more scientifically. So what I did was for the first 3 months before I started to lose weight, I cut down my meal portions, okay? So I got my body, prepared it for weight loss. Because if you think about it, when you're kind of doing a marathon, you do all this training for about 3 months and you prepare your body for running the marathon. I was like, well, why are we not preparing our body for weight loss? Because we're asking a lot of it, aren't we? We can't just suddenly stop eating, different foods and then expect it not to kind of react. It seems illogical, really, when we think about it. So I've prepared my body for weight loss in advance this time, okay, and it seems to be working. So now what I'm doing is, and what I did originally was I ate less over for a few days and then ate more. And then that was then triggering my metabolism so that it would think that I was it would start acting a lot quicker. Because if we eat the same sort of amount, that's when we lose a bit of weight and then it doesn't kind of work. And so I was eating more a few days and then eating less. And then that really worked for me. But so now I've been static for about a month. So I'm trying something different, slightly different. As I say, the frustrating thing is the best I've looked is when I was training for a marathon. So I was running about 18 miles a week, and I looked absolutely fantastic, and it was the thinnest I've ever been. You look quite thin now, was mother's reply. So, hey, I must look good. Right. Right. So, but I can't do that anymore because you can't run 18 miles a week with a plated ankle. I can run about 2 miles a week at the moment, maybe a little bit more than that. But that's it's a work in progress. It seems to be okay. I don't want to overdo it and have the old issues, that I've had with my piriformis muscle, because I'm not having any issues anymore. I'm not really in any significant amount of pain. And I really, really want to stay that way. Now, the issue is so you need to eat a healthy, balanced diet, and you need to exercise regularly, but you can't do high intensity exercise because it can make the symptoms worse, which is just great, isn't it? Yeah. So, and I did really find that, the more I exercise, the more hungry I get. So there's kind of a balance. So I'm thinking doing the exercise first thing in the morning, riding a pony, it's not too high intensive, which is good. And then I'm walking the dog, not as often as I would do, but that's also a gentle exercise. That's quite good. I'm playing golf once a week for about 4 hours at a time. And then I'm also doing swimming twice a week and doing my Pilates. So I'm doing quite a lot of exercise. If you check out my Instagram, you'll see the sort of step count that I'm kind of up to. But also I thought, right, okay, so, what else can I do? Because, and another reason for this is because I went to an endometrial cancer conference a couple of years ago. Basically, if you have this polycystic ovary syndrome, or polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome, as they've now renamed it, then you're more likely to get endometrial cancer. And I have got high blood pressure at the moment. I'd got myself off Ramipril when I was training for the marathon, but now because I put on weight and I can't do as much exercise, I'm having to take a smaller dose, but I am having to take it. And so I'm at risk of having a stroke or heart attack. I'm only 52. I don't really quite fancy popping my clogs just yet. So, I thought, right, need to do something about it and really try and lose some weight. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying a different approach. I'm trying to be consistent in what I eat. Because I kind of thought to myself, well, I've got a fell pony and they're prone to putting on weight, but he gets fed the same things every day and we regulate what he eats. And it's the same with the Labrador, same situation. They're known for putting weight on, but I feed her the same amount every day and she gets the right amount of exercise and she's not really putting on any weight. So I thought, well, it's not really a big leap, is it? We're all mammals. Why don't you try eating the same thing every day? Okay, and see how you get on. So I kind of started it maybe the last couple of weeks, and I've been losing 1 kilogram since then, once a week, which is pretty good. Okay, so because I have been kind of staggered, and then I went up a bit, but the past 2 weeks I've lost 1 kilogram a week, and I've been eating. Although if I'm going off on holiday, I'll be eating some stuff out, so I can't guarantee that I'm not going to put weight back on again. But I've been eating a banana for breakfast with some Greek yogurt and some seeds and some nuts and a little bit of natural honey. So you are getting the kind of sugar that your body kind of craves and needs. Because I did a bit of research into this, and apparently if you do have this thing, then your insulin doesn't work the right way in your body and you have blood sugar extremes, and that's when you crave sweet stuff, which really always happens to me. And so, but by having the nuts and the seeds, which I put in my salad and I also put it in my breakfast, that kind of helps to regulate, the sugar levels, and it has been working. I do have a couple of biscuits a day. Okay, I have four biscuits a day, but do you know what? I've still lost the 1 kilogram with having the 4 biscuits a day. So that's a winner, because then I'm like, I'm having a biscuit and it's only malted milk. But I thought, right, okay, go for the biscuit. So we have hobnobs, which are, they're quite oaty, aren't they? Not too bad. Malted milk, quite low in sugar. And also I've been getting fig rolls. So, they've kind of got figs in them. So they're not too bad biscuits. They're the best biscuits for you of a bunch of bad biscuits. And that's, so we'll see how we go with that. And then I'm having flatbread and scrambled eggs. That's really high in protein. And then I have a jacket potato and this great salad that I did the TikTok video on. And so I have all of my 5 portions of fruit and veg a day. And I've got loads of other stuff. I'd put olives in there and sun-dried tomatoes. I'll have it with a jacket potato, sometimes just butter. Sometimes I'll have some tuna with it if I'm feeling really, really hungry. And then when I get in at night, I have a Muller high protein chocolate mousse which really kind of fills me up. And then I'll have like Cadbury's options, hot chocolate as well. So that's 2 kind of milky protein things to kind of really fill me up before I go to bed. And that seems to be working. But as I said it on my kind of video I did, it's a work in progress. It's a journey. And I'm going to try and do monthly updates on how I'm progressing and whether or not it's working. Because I thought it'd be really good to sort of share this information with other women who are in the same situation. And maybe like me, don't want to go on like loads of tablets and, want to be sort of tablet free. Because I think it's kind of important, but it's important for me anyway to be able to, to just try and lose weight in a natural, healthy way. That's right. So I'm at risk of getting type 2 diabetes. Let's have a little look. High blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which isn't great. And cancer, endometrial cancer. So I'll keep you posted. I will let you know how it all goes. As I say, I have been doing my exercise as well. I did a 10-minute run because running is really, really good for burning fat. But obviously you don't want to do too much running. But I know from my experience that running is the thing that really helped me kind of fitten up. That's good for your cardiovascular system as well. I really enjoy it. So that's really important. Do my runs, and I did a run, and then I went for a swim straight afterwards, which was quite good. There's a little funny social media clip coming up on that in the next couple of days. I have recorded it already. It was quite funny, something that I noticed before I headed into the gym. You have to see, you have to check the social media out to find out what it is. Okay, so have I forgotten anything, missed anything out? I'm not sure, can't remember. As you know, I don't listen to the last week's podcast. Not anymore. I don't really have enough time. So same podcast will be the same again next week. I'll record that. I'll record that. It'll be quite entertaining, hopefully. And maybe a little bit less serious and a bit more jovial. But as I say, that's life sometimes. But you kind of like, it's a wake-up call, really, isn't it? To make sure that we're all kind of going out and doing everything and living day to day. It certainly is for me, making sure we do make contact with those people that we care about and spend time with them while we still can and while they're still here. So that'll be my message today. Go and pick up the phone, speak to somebody, send them a message, go and like their social media, and just try and, don't forget those people. Maybe someone you haven't spoken to for a while. Phone them, see how they are, see how they're doing, check in with people. We need to be more people orientated, really, don't we? Okay, I'm going to end it there. Thanks very much for listening to week 5. Okay, week 6 coming up next week. And I'll catch you next time. Have a good week, everyone.